Game week 14 has proved to be a bit of a disaster for FPL managers, including myself, but we don't have time to dwell on it because the game week 15 deadline is right around the corner. And in today's video, I'll be talking about my transfer plans going into the weekend with 2 free transfers available. So as always, look forward to today's video. Make sure to drop a like and of course, smash that subscribe button for daily fantasy content. And enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So first up, a quick recap on how game week 14 has gone so far, because of course we have 2 more games to play tonight. And for my team, it's been a disaster. It has been a bit of a car crash. So 44 points right now for the team has meant that I was originally 132k. I am now 242k. And we'll go through my players right now. João Pedro still to play. So if he can bag 4 goals for me, that would be delightful. That might actually get me closer to where I was at the start of this game week. But obviously for those managers that have had a bad game week so far, just remember midweek is always a disaster during the Christmas period. It's really important about not panicking, making panic transfers with your team, really sitting down, understanding which players are actually injured, which players are actually rotation risks, and which ones just had their first rest of the season. For example, Nicholas Jackson, one of the most bought players. Not panicking about him if you sit there and have him in your team. This is the one game that he was going to get rested in. So when we take a look at my team right now, Fabianski in goal, wasn't expecting anything, but I wasn't equally expecting that terrible of a performance from West Ham defensively. I thought they were okay going forward. In terms of the back 3, 8 Nori with a 0-pointer, Gabriel with a 0-pointer, and Dallo with 1. So, I mean, 8 Nori and Dallo, just can't really say much about those. But Gabriel, for those that do own him. So Arteta's press conference or interview after the game suggests that Gabriel wasn't ready for this game. The problem? Obviously, Arsenal play this weekend, and we don't really know whether Gabriel is going to be available or not, and I wouldn't be sitting there having your fingers crossed that we're going to get a positive update from Arteta. He will give us the classic, we hope he's available. So we need to also understand whether Gabriel is worth selling or not if we think that he's going to be ruled out for this weekend. In terms of the midfield, I never complain about my power midfield. Saka, Palmer, Salah, like they're just playing every single game week. But I spoke about this on my previous video. The only issue is getting the captaincy right. And in this game week, it didn't go well. Captaincy of Cole Palmer for the 7-pointer. Obviously, in comparison to Mo Salah's 18 points, it was a bit of a disaster. And of course, with the effective ownership of Mo Salah being like 150%, it meant that if you went against Mo Salah, then you were basically getting 0 points from him. It was actually negatively affecting you every time he scored. And for me, if I had to do it again, I would do the exact same thing. Because if you said to me right now, Chelsea would have scored 5 goals away from Southampton and Palmer only gets 7 points, I would say that is pretty damn unlucky. On another day, Cole Palmer scores that 1v1 that the keeper made an incredible save on, and we walk away a happier manager, basically. And I just had no confidence that Mo Salah was going to bag 2 goals and an assist. I felt Liverpool, it was going to be a bit more of a scrappier affair, maybe a 1-0 victory. So for them to score 3 goals away from Newcastle, I just got to put my hands up and say I did not see that coming. Congratulations to anyone that did go for the captaincy on Salah. Mbeumo 2-pointer is starting to get a little bit worrying now, but of course a home game to come. We will talk about Mbeumo and the front line. Visser with the 2-pointer, never expected anything because anyone that knows Brentford and Visser don't do anything away from home. Cunha, that is worrying how poor Wolves were against Everton. That's one to monitor. And of course, João Pedro. So I rolled my transfer, thankfully. 44 points right now. João Pedro to play. Let me know in the comments how many points you got so far. Has anybody got 70, 75? That would be an incredible week. Let's take a look at how my team's looking for game week 15 and what I'm going to do with this team. So here's how my team is looking for game week 15 without any transfers being made. And of course, I rolled my transfer at game week 14. So 2 free transfers available, 1.2 million in the bank. And this was the whole purpose of this, to give me a bit of flexibility, because during those midweek games, I just had no idea what I wanted to do. And if you have no idea, the best thing to do is to roll your transfer. So just take a look at my team from top to bottom to get a bit of an understanding on who are the players that are just long-term sticking, and of course the players that are starting to be a bit of an issue. So Fabianski at home against Wolves, not ideal at all considering the Wolves assets that I do own. But am I making a goalkeeper transfer right now? The answer is going to be no, personally. I do understand the attraction of maybe bringing in someone like a David Raya, but I just don't see it right now for my team. In terms of the defenders, I don't think I have much of a decision to make here. Enquiries away against West Ham, Dalot at home against Nottingham Forest, Gabriel away against Fulham. So first and foremost, Gabriel, we need to get a little bit of an understanding of whether this is an actual problem and he's going to be out for multiple weeks. If that's the case, he is a sell. If he is a touch and go pick for the Fulham away game, I think I'll just keep, because I know long term I want Gabriel in my team regardless, and I'll just have to accept that it's going to be a tricky game week once again. Dalot at home against Nottingham Forest. Again, I'm pretty certain he will play again just based on the Man United players that they have available. But again, if we get some uncertainty from Amorim, then he could be a cash cow for me for a certain Liverpool defender that I am considering. And Enquiries, again, a player that I wouldn't mind selling. But again, away against West Ham, I probably would just play it over Vandenberg at home against Newcastle. In terms of the midfielders, there's no point me talking about Saka, Palmer and Mo Salah, apart from captaincy, which we'll touch on in a minute. For me, those guys are just glue guys. They're going to stay in my team long term. The big issue with my team right now, of course, is the other two midfielders. We've got Mbeumo at a price point right now where he is sitting there offering himself to be sold because he is doing nothing each and every game week, and he really is disappointing the team. And then we got Garnacho, who is a real problem. Like, even though Mbeumo isn't delivering, at least I know he's going to play this weekend. He's going to be on penalties if they get a scrappy one. Garnacho, I just have no idea when he is going to play and where he's going to play in this Amorim system. So for that reason, I think if I have to make a transfer right now and I can get to a player from either Mbeumo or Garnacho at the same, it will be Garnacho gone first, because it just has to be. He's a problem. He's offering nothing. And during this festive period, you want a bench that can actually come in and know that they're going to start. And I just don't get that certainty from Garnacho at all. And at his price point, I kind of need to allocate those funds. So Garnacho is a player that I am looking to sell, and we'll touch on some replacements in a minute. And the front three. Visser at home against Newcastle. If I have the confidence that he's going to play, don't think that's a desperate sell. I think Newcastle defensively are not good, and I think Brentford at home are really good. And Visser gets the big chances, so I'm happy to keep Visser for another game week. Cunha away against West Ham. Again, I'm not desperately selling Cunha right now. I think that would be a real rash move, so happy to keep Cunha. And we'll see what happens with João Pedro tonight in their game. But what I saw of Leicester, Brighton are going to get serious chances at the King Power Stadium. And if we can get João Pedro again to start that game, then he's going to be a fantastic option. So right now, I don't think I need to force a forward in my team. I think the midfielder and defensive options are the routes that I need to go for. So let's take a look at some potential transfers to make for my team. So one of the most important things over this festive period is considering the fixtures. I honestly think this is the first thing you need to do if you are considering a player, because it is such a busy period and we really need to make sure that we're investing in the teams that we trust in. And if we can get the ones that don't actually play tons and tons of games, then that is a winner. So when we look at this right now, I just want to give a bit of context to when game week 15, 16 and all is. So game week 15, of course, is this weekend. Game week 16, a week Saturday. Game week 17 is Saturday the 21st. Game week 18, Thursday the 26th. We've got a midweek, obviously Boxing Day. Game week 19 is Sunday the 29th. So again, we got basically game week 17 weekend, game week 18 midweek, game week 19 weekend. And then the 20th is basically a week's rest for those players. So there is congestion. And for those teams that are in Champions League, Europa League and Conference League, they have got games between game week 15 and game week 16. And we've also got the EFL Cup quarter-final between game week 16 and game week 17. And that's going to include Arsenal versus Palace, Newcastle versus Brentford, Southampton versus Liverpool, and Spurs versus Man United. So if you are Arsenal, if you're Spurs, if you're Man United, if you're Liverpool, you've got a busy period. You've also got the Champions League and you've got the EFL Cup. So lots to consider, especially someone like Man United, because Amorim has got to be trying to go for everything right now. So he probably can't play a B team in that EFL Cup. He's got to try and bring a trophy to these Man United fans quickly. So Man United will be a problem. So when we take a look at the actual fixtures, Brighton right at the top, a perfect example of a team who aren't involved in anything else, are just solely focused on the league and have great fixtures. For my team right now, I've got a piece of João Pedro. The only other one I would consider is going to be Matoma, because I don't trust any of the minutes. And that's the big thing. We need to consider the minutes picks. getting the players that play pretty much all the time is really, really important. When we work down the list here, Man City, again, I just can't really trust any of their assets right now. I would love to bring in Kevin De Bruyne, but with all of us going for power midfields, can't really get to those sort of players. Bournemouth is really interesting. We need to see the game tonight, but I think Kluivert or Semenyo, even Evan Nielsen are going to be on the radar 100%. I think they are great picks over this period here. Villa, I don't really love because game week 15, yes, you could jump in on that. But after that, Forest, City, Newcastle, don't really see much value over those fixtures. Being a Wolves owner, I don't see jeopardy right now. I still think the fixtures are good enough to keep, but I wouldn't be buying those at all. So when we're actually looking at teams that we need to target, I need to talk about Liverpool and Arsenal because, as I spoke about, the perfect example of just fixtures galore, both in Europe, Premier League and domestic cups. So they are going to be busy, busy, busy. For me, already having Mo Salah, I would like to bring in a Liverpool defender, whether it be Gomez, Van Dijk, or someone like a Trent, and we will touch on that. I think it's still a good time with these fixtures coming up. Arsenal as well. Do I get a third defender? I still think the fixtures are really good long-term to justify it, and I think someone like a Jurrien Timber could be great long-term for my team. At the bottom of the list here, I am a man who has double Brentford, triple Brentford, it may be said, and I will be looking to move away from them because I don't like the fixtures long-term at all. Man United, a bit of a problem. I have Dalot, I have Garnacho. I'm looking to ship out Garnacho. And, of course, we have teams like West Ham where we can go for Jarrod Bowen. I saw good things. But, again, do I trust West Ham? And I think the answer is going to be no. So, take a screenshot of this if you need to. Really consider those teams you need to target. For me, it's still all about getting those big teams in with those defences, and then can we look to bring in some of those teams at the top of this ticker with value picks? So one player right now that just feels completely dictating the decision making for a lot of managers' team is going to be Trent. So I haven't seen the value from Trent at all. I was one of those managers that had him on a wild card. I've had him for a lot of this season, and at 7 million, now 6.9, I just can't really see the value. However, coming into these fixtures right now, came off the bench in last night's game, of course, for the 2 assists. But that's one of the problems, of course. Are we actually going to get guaranteed game time from Trent? Because Slots come out and said that at times Trent can't play all the time. And maybe that was his rest against Newcastle, but it also does throw up a few alarm bells that if I'm going to pay 6.9 million for a player, I need this guy to play 90 minutes every single week. And I don't know if I have that certainty with him. But when we take a look at the fixtures right now, Everton away, I know they scored 4 against Wolves, but I think that's a good fixture for Liverpool regardless. Then Fulham at home, I think is a good fixture. Leicester at home in game week 18. West Ham away in game week 19 if they still got Lopetegui in charge. These feel like fixtures where they could rack up the clean sheets and, importantly, maybe some attacking returns for Trent. Now, the big thing for me is I can get a piece of the Liverpool defence. I could go Gomez really cheap, or I could go for Virgil van Dijk. So Trent for me really needs to offer something above both of those to consider paying the money. So when we look at the underlying numbers per 90 minutes for the season, Virgil van Dijk's expected goals is basically identical to that of Trent's. Shots per 90 is in Trent's favour. Basically, all of Virgil's are going to come from set-piece opportunities. Trent's are probably going to come from free kicks or those long-range efforts. Because you can see shots in the box reflect that. 0.57 for Virgil, so all of those are headers from corners, whereas 0.09 for Trent suggests that all of his are coming from outside the box, which he has the capability to do so, but also not ideal if you're always taking shots from outside the box. But the creativity obviously is the thing that we're looking at for Trent. Expected assist 0.32 per 90. It's not bad. It's actually decent numbers, but again, is it the numbers that we have been used to seeing in a Klopp system? I probably would say no. Attempted assist 2.32 and big chances created 0.56. So I think the numbers are there. I think they are good. And of course, right now with Virgil being 6.4 million, there's only 0.5 difference between the two. It's not like it's 1 million. And I think if it was 1 million difference, I think I would just go get Virgil van Dijk and be done with it because he offers set piece threat. And he is just obviously going to play every single game. But when there's only 0.5 million in it, I do feel like there are going to be game weeks, like game week 16, like game week 18, where Trent could pick up that big double-digit return. And you're going to be sat there with your 6-pointer and Virgil van Dijk. And you're going to think to yourself, oh, I should have just paid that 0.5 million more for Trent. Now, this is a player that I can get to. I could say sell Diogo Dalot, change the structure of my team, and then downgrade Garnacho, and then we have got easy money for a Trent. And it is definitely tempting going into game week 15, but with the comments that Arnie Slot stated about Trent still not fully fit to feature all the time, that is a slight concern going away against Everton, where it is going to be a high tempo game. Is that a game where he also plays a physical player like a Kwanzaa to kind of go against the Everton threat from set pieces like Tarkowski and Branthwaite? So something to consider right now, but I don't feel like I have to jump in on Trent right now. I feel like it could wait until game week 16 where I reassess everything and just let this crazy week happen. But he is definitely on the radar right now. So taking a look at my team for game week 15 and the transfers that I am likely to make. As I mentioned, I really do want Trent in my team, but do I feel like I need to force him in this game week? I think the answer is no. If I did want to bring him in, and I am of the thought that Gabriel is going to be back this weekend or at least the following game week, I probably would just keep him. So the only way that I can really get to him is selling Diego Dallo, bringing in Trent, and then downgrading Garnacho to a player that is 5.6 million. The problem with that is I don't have a lot of players that I really love at 5.6 million. One of those could be Rodgers, and I just bring him in for the Southampton game, and he comes in for likely someone like Visser. But again, then I'm benching someone like Visser, who is always fantastic at home, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So right now, I feel like Trent is a luxury player that I would love to bring in, but I need one more game week's worth of information to understand, is he fully fit? Is he actually going to play each and every game week for Liverpool? And if I can actually let this game week go, game week 15, then of course we've got the Champions League to happen. And then in game week 16, where they got that great fixture at home against Fulham, that feels like the right entry point based on what we've seen during midweek. So personally, I'm happy to let it slide with Trent for now. So the big question is there actually a move that I can make in game week 15 that benefits my team? And when we take a look at the fixtures at the bottom here that are truly great for game week 15, yes, Villa are great, but I can't really shoehorn a Watkins in, so I'm just going to let this fixture slide. And long term, I don't know if the fixtures are good enough to justify an Aston Villa defender. Bournemouth away against Ipswich, that could be very tempting. I need to see tonight's game, but one move that I could make is selling Garnacho and bringing in someone like a Semenyo. Now, I'm expecting him to come back from suspension in tonight's game. And if I see good things, I think one of the moves that I would be tempted to do is start Semenyo. The only issue is, if I'm going to keep Bryan Mbeumo, then I have to start him. And I look at my front three and think to myself, well, I don't really want to bench any of you guys either, unless I have some uncertainty that maybe João Pedro or Visser are going to get rotated. So again, bringing in Semenyo is great, but only really good for my team if I feel like someone in my starting 11 is going to get rotated. So with that said, I look at the rest of the fixtures and I ask myself, who else do I really need? Don't need a Leicester player. Liverpool, I could wait one more week and then bring him in. Don't really feel like I need to bring in a West Ham player unless it's going to be to replace Mbeumo. And the final thoughts on Mbeumo. Yes, he has been really poor recently, but I also think Newcastle have been poor themselves. And Brentford have been one of the best teams in the league at home. And I feel like for me, this is probably the final game week of having double Brentford attack. And I feel like when I look at the returns that Mbeumo has had at home, they've been good. Yes, he's been poor recently, but I feel like one more game week worth of Bryan Mbeumo makes sense. Keep him for the Newcastle game and then potentially look to sell him in game week 16 for the other options that do become better beyond this point. So as of right now, controversially, I actually do think I'm just going to roll my transfer. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense. If we get news that Gabriel's ruled out, then I think I will have to force a transfer, and that could be my easy route to Trent. It is worth noting. But otherwise, I think rolling my transfer once again in game week 15, while it doesn't look great, actually is the move long-term for my team. Captaincy, as of right now, is going to go on Mo Salah. No questions asked. I got to go with him. The ownership is all in his favour, and the way he's playing right now, he's just the Haaland that we had 2 years ago. So that's the plan. Rolling the transfer and giving myself 3 free transfers for game week 16, where my team would look like this. And I feel like now this is the week where I'll be looking to make some moves and really look to improve it. Dallo to Trent, for example. Take the money out of Mbeumo to come down to a cheaper midfielder and then look to integrate different players into this team. So that's the plan, and I really hope it does pay off. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and what are your transfer plans? Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up today's Game Week 15 transfer plans video. As you can see, rolling my transfer, weirdly enough, actually probably will be my play, captaincy on Mo Salah. Let me know in the comment section, do you have any questions going into Game Week 15? It's a quick turnaround, so make sure you do get them in. I'll make sure to get to them. And as always, if you did enjoy it, make sure to drop a like, and of course, smash that subscribe button. And I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Take care. Cheers.